I declare the meeting open and welcome you. The recording of this council meeting will be available to the public on council's website for a minimum of 6 months. In accordance with council policy, I will now ask council staff to confirm that the recording has commenced.
Yes, it has, ma'am.
Thank you, Sandy. I'd first of all like to acknowledge that we meet today on the land of the Malacca people, the traditional custodians of this land. Our Aboriginal people have a deep spiritual connection to land and sea and have been caring for our country for over 40,000 years in Tasmania. We pay respect to them and their culture and their elders, those past, present and emerging. Like all businesses, the Huon Valley Council has had to change the way that they deliver services to their residents, and council meetings are no different. Local government has needed to respond promptly to social distancing requirements, and tonight we are bringing you council's very first online meeting. Tonight's agenda relates to the general ordinary meeting that was rescheduled from the 25th of March this year and includes 2 urgent matters. We are testing this webcam technology tonight and it will be uploaded to our website tomorrow for you to view. Copies of draft minutes from the meeting will also be available on the website as soon as possible. The public have had the opportunity to email their questions to council for public question time, with all questions being received by 4 p.m. today. So we will commence with the meeting. The first item on our agenda is attendance. And we have councillors joining us remotely this evening. I will announce each councillor's name one by one and ask for them to confirm their attendance. Deputy Mayor Doyle?
Yes, Mayor, here.
Councillor Newell?
Yes, here.
Councillor Gibson?
Yes, Mayor.
Councillor Campbell?
Yes, Mayor.
Councillor Wilson?
Yes, Mayor.
Councillor Bird?
Yes, Mayor.
And Councillor O'May? Councillor O'May, are you able to confirm your attendance this evening?
Mayor, I believe that Councillor O'May is present by the look of the screen, just hasn't unmuted his microphone.
All right. Thank you very much. That's been confirmed by council staff that Councillor O'May actually is present and he is able to hear us. Thank you. I'd now like to introduce our General Manager, Emilio Reali, and would ask him to introduce his officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Present tonight we have Director of Legal and Governance Services, Matthew Grimsey, Director of Community Services, Rebecca Stevenson, Director of Infrastructure Services, Len Vester, Director of Finance, of Corporate Services, David Spinks, Executive Assistant Sandy Rustell. We have IT Support, Tracy Hankin and Michael Glazier. And we also have Director of Environment and Development Services, Luke Chu, joining us remotely.
Thank you. Thanks, General Manager. Item 2 on the agenda is non-attendance. 2.1, we do actually have an apology this evening from Councillor Prince. 2.2, there are no leave of absence. 2.3, there is no absent. Item 3 is a declaration of interest. Councillors, is there any item on the agenda where you need to declare an interest?
Yes, Mayor.
That's Councillor Campbell. What item number, agenda item number are you?
Item number Sorry, I'm just looking for the caravan
you-
park.
The caravan park, that's 19.007/20.
Yes.
I also will be
Yeah.
declaring sorry? Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
will also be declaring a conflict of interest for that report, which is 19.007/20. Is there any other declarations of interest this evening?
I would also like to declare an interest on the same matter.
All right, that was Councillor Gibson. Thank you very much for that. We've recorded that. Thank you. Item 4, confirmation of minutes. Is someone happy to move the minutes held on the 26th of February and the open minutes of the special meeting on the 11th of March?
Councillor Wilson, I'll do that, Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. And Councillor Newell, I can see, is indicating that he is seconding that. I will put the motion and will ask each councillor to state whether they are for or against the motion. Councillor Doyle.
For, Mayor.
Councillor Newell.
For.
Councillor Campbell.
For.
Councillor Gibson.
For.
Councillor Wilson.
For.
Councillor O'May.
For.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bird.
For.
And my vote is for as well. So that is, the motion is carried. Thank you very much. We now move on to item 5. Do we have any legislative items, General Manager?
Yes, Mayor. We do. And Mayor, I'd like to advise that on Friday, the 3rd of April 2020, the Premier made orders under the COVID-19 Disease Emergency Miscellaneous Provisions Act 2020 in relation to local government. Holding of council meetings electronically without public present, this meeting complies with those orders. Providing for the making of a number of documents otherwise required to be for public inspection at the council offices on the council's website. All documents referred to are currently on council's website, and providing for a number of documents to be signed by electronic signatures. This is being implemented as necessary. Copies of the orders can be viewed on the Tasmanian Government Gazette website at www.gazette.tas.gov.au.
Thank you very much. Item 6, there are 2 urgent matters, and I will ask the General Manager to introduce both of those. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. The first urgent matter is the COVID-19 Huon Valley Council response. In accordance with Regulation 8.6 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulations 2015, I would like to report that it was not possible to include the matter in the agenda as the relevant information was not received until the agenda had been finalised. That the matter is urgent due to the ever-changing nature of the COVID-19 emergency and expectations to consider resolutions from the Local Government Association of Tasmania relating to local government relief provisions. And advice has been provided under section 65 of the Act in a report to be discussed in open council. Mayor, I also have the Signet Medical Centre update, and also in accordance with Regulation 8.6 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulation 2015, I report that it was not possible to include the matter in the agenda as relevant information was not received until after the agenda had been finalised. This report deals with matters to be considered in closed council pursuant to Regulation 15(2)(b), C and F of the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulation 2015. The matter is urgent due to the need to consider the information before the council, and advice has been provided under section 65 of the Act in a report to be discussed in closed council. And there is a recommendation, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Do we have a councillor to move a motion? Can you say your name, please?
Councillor
Sally.
Wilson.
That's Deputy Mayor Doyle and seconded by
Councillor Wilson.
Councillor Wilson. Thank you. Councillor Doyle, do you have any opening remarks at all?
No, Mayor.
I'll now ask each councillor if they have a comment or a question to ask regarding those items. Deputy Mayor Doyle, do you have any questions you wish to ask?
No, not at the moment. Thanks, Mayor.
Councillor Newell?
No, Mayor, no.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell?
No, Mayor.
Councillor Gibson?
No, Mayor.
Councillor Wilson?
No, Mayor.
Councillor O'May?
No, Mayor.
Councillor Bird?
No.
And I don't have any questions either. So I will put the motion and we'll ask each councillor to state whether they are for or against the motion. Councillor Doyle?
For.
Councillor Newell?
For.
Councillor Campbell?
For.
Councillor Gibson? Councillor Gibson, will you unmute your microphone, please?
Sorry, 4.
Thank
I don't know why
you.
that wasn't working.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson?
For, Mayor.
Councillor O'May?
For.
Councillor Bird?
For.
And I am for as well. So that is all councillors and the motion is carried. Thank you. We go now on to agenda item 7, which are announcements. Are there any announcements?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. I do have a comment, just reiterating the state and federal government and their position at the moment with COVID-19. I cannot stress enough to members of our community that please respond to our government's directive to only engage in essential travel and the new warnings for the Easter period, which are being very well communicated. Please always keep informed about coronavirus on the coronavirus.tas.gov.au website. Rely on trusted information such as ABC, World Health Organisation and the Australian and Tasmanian government websites. And be kind to each other at this time and stay home, stay well and save lives. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 8, which is public participation. And for this purpose, where questions can be answered, the question and answer will be recorded at tonight's meeting. Where questions cannot be answered, the question will be taken on notice and answered at the April Council meeting. And questions are limited to 2 questions per person. Where there are more than 2 questions per person, the answer to these questions will be emailed directly to the requester. We don't have any answers that we need to give relating to previous questions taken on notice, but according to 8.1.2, we do have some questions on notice and I'll start to run through those now. A question raised by Neil Plummer regarding pensioner remissions. And his question, As a recent recipient of healthcare card, I was advised by the Huon Valley Council that 1, any concession due on my property rates would occur only as of the 1st of July 2020. Item 2, this pensioner remission council policy was set by vote by Huon Valley councillors. In reality, a Huon Valley ratepayer who owns and occupies the property as their principal place of residence would wait 52 weeks to receive a rates concession should a healthcare card be activated on the 2nd of July of any given year, and that card be provided to the Huon Valley Council on the 2nd of July of any given year. The current Huon Valley Council healthcare card remission start date of entitlement is unacceptable and only places the rate paying recipient at further disadvantage. I urge councillors to 1, amend the current 1st July remission start date to the date specific to any ratepayer's healthcare card entitlement start date, and 2, further provide the same amendment to include A, pensioner concession card holders, and B, repatriation healthcare card holders. So the response is from council: the pensioner rates remission is provided by the state government. It is administered by the Department of Treasury and Finance through the State Revenue Office, the SRO. The SRO establishes and administers the eligibility criteria. Unfortunately, pensioners must be eligible as of the 1st of July. If a pensioner becomes eligible after July 1, they must wait until the following financial year to receive the remission. The SRO criteria stipulates the remission is available to pensioners who hold one of 3 types of concession cards, they being the pensioner concession card, healthcare card, or the repatriation health card. Gold card endorse total of permanent or war widower card, and the applicant must be liable to pay the rates on the property that they occupy as their principal place of residence as of the 1st of July of the financial year to which the rates relate. We have another question from Andy Waterhouse. Question 1. To the matter of last month's council meeting, which was the 26th day, February 2020, at public question time, where a member of the public was given permission to have free range asking 3 to 4 questions. Why, Mayor Enders, was this member of the community given the opportunity? And the second question to respond to is, from now on, Mayor Enders, is there going to be consistency and good governance discipline in regards to public question time? For those of you that might not have attended a council meeting in the past, we do have a standing position here that members of the public are only able to ask a maximum of 2 questions. And normally those questions are separated into 1 at a time to ensure that there is some fairness and equity that does occur amongst the gallery for those asking questions. So my response is to Andy. Thank you for asking that question, Andy. Firstly, I'd apologise to the public for not asserting myself in the role of chair and asking the person in question to stop at question 2. Instead, I did ask the person whether the questions were all related, for which the reply was yes. In hindsight, I would not engage in discussing the matter further and remain firm to the expectations that I set at the beginning of each meeting. My response to question number 2 is yes, Andy, I will be consistent in my approach at public question time in future and more assertive. Thank you for your question. We now have another question, which is from Carol Murphy. And her question goes, I have concern that all public toilets need special attention and maintenance during this time, as they may be more in use with persons walking their dogs or out exercising, along with the fact of caravan parks closing and persons may be travelling through townships. As hand washing is on the front line of preventing the spread of the COVID-19 virus, are all council owned and maintained public toilets being regularly cleaned? And if a soap dispenser is not in place and functioning, is a bar of soap provided to ensure that the virus is not spread from council assets? And the answer is, there is no evidence that public toilets are being used more during this time. All council-owned public toilets throughout the municipal area are maintained as required and on a regular cleaning schedule. Prior to COVID-19, only public toilets in the built-up areas had soap dispensers. It was not common practice to provide soap dispensers in public toilets in outlying locations due to vandalism and theft. But with the outbreak of COVID-19, Council placed an order with suppliers to provide an additional 46 units for installation in all public toilets. With a shortage of supplies nationwide, our supplier provided 25 units, which were installed on the 24th of March 2020. The remainder of the order was placed on back order and an expected delivery date of late April. And once the soap dispensers are received, they will be installed. Soap bars are not recognised as a solution, as the virus can be transferred from user to user. Thank you. And we will provide an attached table to Carol Murphy that is the staff have made available in response to her personally. So the next item we have is a question from Jeffrey Swan. Will you please advise what measures council is taking towards reducing staff numbers and enforcing annual and long service leave during this time of the coronavirus? And the answer is a number of measures have been put in place to address impacts from the COVID-19 emergency. Essentially, the business of the council is continuing, although some areas have been closed as a result of the emergency. And I'll just go through some following dot points that have been provided. In response to the outbreak, HVC has swiftly moved to put measures in place to keep our staff and community safe, which is our #1 priority. Councils must play their part in cushioning the economic impact of COVID-19 pandemic. At the moment, local government is not eligible for JobKeeper, and this is a challenge for us. In the current economic climate, every job is essential. We are trying to minimise the impact of job losses and retain workers in every way we can as a major local employer to support the economy, and aligned also with the federal government's objective of keeping people employed as long as possible. Keeping a skilled, experienced and engaged workforce will allow for faster recovery once the pandemic passes. However, we know staff reductions are an unfortunate reality in order to ensure we come through the other side of this crisis. We have seen a number of our sites closed to the public and services being modified or scaled back. Unfortunately, casual staff have been stood down and part-time staff reduced to minimum hours, some staff using up their leave. We've been able to redeploy some staff into other areas and have placed a freeze on recruitment for non-essential vacant positions. We have also put a freeze on all plant and equipment purchases and replacements. These are difficult decisions to make, and we will have to continue adapting as the crisis unfolds to ensure we are standing strong at the end so that we can deliver essential services. Council employee negotiations for a new enterprise agreement, including future salary increases, have been put on hold, with 0% salary increase recommended for the 2021 budget for all employees, including our General Manager. Council services are being reviewed on an ongoing basis and being managed in a balanced way to ensure that the council can continue to provide services to the community during the emergency and to be in a position to re-establish all services when the emergency is over. And that concludes the answer to that question. Thank you. And to question time. Thank you. Oh, is that? Okay. All right, I've just been informed there are a couple more questions. Ah, right. Lovely. Okay, thank you. My apologies. Not quite there yet. We have a question from Liz Smith. And the question is, there's two questions actually from Liz Smith. Given that circumstances have changed so completely due to COVID-19 since the report for the March Council meeting was prepared and the Signet Caravan Park is now closed indefinitely to all but long-term or permanent residents, is it appropriate to continue the EOI process as recommended in the report to the March meeting, or should the matter be deferred and an independent risk analysis be prepared? And the answer is that option is available and it is a matter for councillors to debate and consider. It does not, though, address what happens to the caravan park in the short to medium term. The next question that I have from Liz Smith is, since it is council's responsibility to ensure the health and safety of the community, does the council consider that an independent assessment of the cost of the upgrading facilities to a level adequate to meet health and safety requirements, this still relates to the caravan parks, must be made to ensure that the facility is fit for purpose before initiating an EOI process for the lease of the site? And the response is an independent assessor could be contracted to assess the facilities. However, if upgrading was desired, this would require a council budget allocation, and this would be potentially classified a significant business activity for the provision of public camping. Therefore, providing facilities funded by public money for the purpose of business activity without full cost attribution would likely be in contravention of competitive neutrality principles. It may be more appropriate for an EOI process to identify proposals which include the potential for upgrade of these facilities. Okay. All right. We have a question from Pat Singe as well. His question is, we know that with the federal and state government's response to the COVID-19, HVC has taken measures, so it's the Huon Valley Council, has taken measures to protect staff and the community by limiting physical interaction and closing many facilities. Given that in the agenda for this meeting there is no mention whatsoever of COVID-19, that was before the urgent item, of course, that under the Local Government Act, a primary role of local government is to provide for the health, safety and welfare of the community. Can you please indicate what proactive measures the Huon Valley Council has taken and is taking or is planning to take to help those in the community who are currently in dire need of assistance or support? And the answer is an urgent matter has been brought on the council agenda by way of a report on COVID-19 emergency report. And this report is available on the council website. His final question is, we understand that the Huon Valley Council anticipates a reduction in rates revenue for financial year 2021 and is factoring this in during the preparation of next year's budget. Can you indicate approximately what reduction in rates revenue is anticipated? And the response to Pat is, this is yet to be determined. However, on the urgent matter COVID-19 emergency report being brought onto the agenda, the principles in setting the 2021 budget include consideration of a zero general rate rise. Thank you. Right, we are finished this time, thank you. We'll go on to, there are no questions without notice. They were those?
Yep.
All right. There are no deputation addresses to council.
No, Mayor.
And I believe item 9 on the agenda, there are no petitions.
No, Mayor.
Right, lovely. We'll go on to item 10, which is general reports. And General Manager, you have a report listed here. Do you wish to speak to it all on this occasion?
Mayor, given that this has been carried over for 2 weeks, I probably would suggest that I don't go through the highlights at this particular time.
Yes, certainly I understand that. And I have to say that I'm probably very much in the same position as the General Manager, considering this was a report back from March. But I will speak to some other minutes that are actually on this particular section. So the next item under general reports is the Huonville Recreation Area Management Advisory Committee minutes, 3 February 2020. Just to say that the main highlights related to grants received for football and cricket change rooms in Huonville and a tennis court in Huonville. We have the Marine Facilities Development Advisory Committee of the 24th of February, the minutes. I'll just ask Councillor May if he has anything to say on that particular report before we move on. Okay.
Mayor, I think Councillor may have some.
Hang on.
Oh, thank you. We can hear you now, Councillor May.
Sorry, I'm having trouble getting this audio working. Yes, I would like to mention a couple of things about that workshop that we had in regards to the Dover parking area at the wharf. There was a plan put in place there that we try and get the parking sorted there. There's a beautiful boat ramp, great facility with little thought process being put into the parking of vehicles. That's been addressed, and there was a contribution, dollar for dollar contribution coming through from Master, I think it was. If we spend some money on the car park, they were going to spend some more money on the facility there, which was a great idea to take up. And there was also some more thought going into what we were going to use as a composite for wharf repair. We'd looked at a few different products that don't seem to be attacked by the Toledo worm, and try and get a lot more life out of our wharfing facilities and jetties. Council staff have done a great job of there, sourcing some good information, and are in the process of making up some decisions on which one that we go with.
Thank you very much.
There was also some further correspondence in regards to the car dealer. And that's an ongoing process. Emilio probably knows probably a bit more about that, but yeah, I think that was a bit of a wind up of that meeting.
Thank you very much, Councillor May. The next item under general reports is the Ranelagh Recreation Area Management Advisory Committee minutes of the 24th of February 2020. And so most of the discussion from members related to the ground master plan and some ongoing concerns by users of the grounds. And these issues are still being worked through, so with council staff.
Councillor Doyle.
Councillor Doyle's got a question. Yes, Councillor Doyle, you have a question?
It was relating back to the marine one, Mayor, if I
Yes.
may. I was talking to Jane Galashan, and she was hoping that we could really promote the fact that not to use wharves or jetties that are not in your area over that Easter break. Otherwise, we'll be stopped from fishing altogether.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So we actually have, the next item is to table councillor activities. And the activities that I have that have been handed to me is Councillor Doyle, your activities for February, and Councillor Bird, your activities for February as well. Just to let you know that we have received those. They are on file. Just a very quick question to councillors. Does any other councillor have any activities that they will be handing in for this particular meeting?
No.
Mayor.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
Councillor Wilson, no.
No, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next item, which is item 11, council workshops.
Just a move.
Oh, sorry. My apologies. Procedure. Okay, so if I could have someone to move that those general reports be accepted for the period 1 to 29 February.
Councillor Bird.
Thank you. Seconder, please.
Councillor Gibson.
Thank you. Just a reminder to councillors that at the time of moving and seconding, you need to take your unmute your button and say your name. Thank you. Because we can't always see you. Thank you. And I'll now go through and ask each councillor to say whether they are for or against. Councillor Doyle.
For.
Councillor Newell.
For.
Councillor Campbell.
For.
Councillor Gibson.
For.
Councillor Wilson.
For.
Councillor O'May.
For.
Councillor Bird.
For.
And my vote is for as well. So that's all councillors and the motion is carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 11, which is council workshops. And if I can ask the General Manager just to provide a brief overview of those council workshops. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Council workshops on the 4th of February, we had a mountain bike feasibility study presentation. So the project consultants, Otium Group, provided a presentation on the final draft report and went through the outcomes and findings of the mountain bike feasibility study. A copy is actually attached in the attachments. Communication survey results. The Director of Community Services actually presented a summary of the key findings from the surveys that were run, and the information that we get from those surveys will actually form the basis and the guide for the development of a communication strategy. We also went through the first draft budgets, or where we were heading with those. That has all now changed with the COVID emergency. So that's now being reshaped after we get a resolution on the report that's in our agenda for tonight. And on the 11th of February, Huon Valley Council Reconciliation Action Plan, our RAP, we've started the process for that. And we had Mark Redmond from the Reconciliation Tasmania. He facilitated a workshop with councillors and the executive leadership team. Went through a number of items which are listed in the agenda in dot point form, and that will progress probably a little bit down the track, because I think with everyone meeting in places where there's gatherings has stopped at this point in time. So I'll probably reconvene at a later date when the emergency has passed me.
Yeah, thank you very much. The next agenda item is item 12, councillor questions. So 12.1, we do have one question on notice, which was a question from Councillor Prince. Can Huon Valley Council assist business owners and operators by suspending rates for 3 months? And the answer is we will be working on a hardship policy that will see us working with businesses and any others on a case-by-case basis. If they are finding themselves in a hardship situation, it would not be financially viable for council to suspend rates for 3 months, we would encourage those who can pay rates to pay them, as we do need to provide the community with essential services. So 12.2, are there any questions without notice?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Item 13, there are no notices of motion.
No, ma'am.
Thank you. So now we move straight into our reports. The first report we have is COVID-19 Huon Valley Council response, agenda number 14.002/20. Do we have a councillor to move a motion?
Councillor
Mayor.
Bird.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, I think that was Councillor Doyle, and Councillor Bird, will you be seconding that then in that case?
Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Doyle, do you have any opening remarks?
No, Mayor.
All right, I'll now work through a list and ask each councillor if they have a comment or any questions they would like to ask. Councillor Doyle, do you have any questions?
No, Mayor.
Councillor Newell?
No, Mayor.
Councillor Campbell?
No, Mayor.
Councillor Gibson?
No, Mayor.
Councillor Wilson?
No, Mayor.
Councillor O'May?
No, Mayor.
Councillor Bird?
Am I able to make a comment, Mayor?
Most certainly.
I just wanted to say I posted earlier today on social media when you and the GM did the live post earlier today, I think that was. And I just wanted to say that I'm really happy with the way the council have stood up and handled this crisis so far to date. And I just wanted to personally thank the Mayor and the GM for really standing up and looking out for our communities down here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bird. I just have a comment to say, which is at an incredibly challenging time, it has been really good to see the strength and good decisions that are coming out through collaboration. Councils are working together with LGAT, the Local Government Association of Tasmania, to ensure that there is a high level of consistency across the whole of local government in Tasmania. This is incredibly important. This reduces any confusion and also provides a fair outcome for all communities in Tasmania. So Local Government Association of Tasmania has been working with the Office of the Premier, Peter Gutwin, as also the Office of the Prime Minister to negotiate the needs and the position of their members. And some of the most recent ones we're in discussion about is about JobKeeper allowance, being eligible for local government, and also about loans versus grants. Regional authorities are working with the federal and state government to communicate how their government initiatives are actually working on the ground. And our own council, with our General Manager and his executive team, immediately responded on every occasion to government directives, ensuring that they are party to every meeting that has an impact on the operations of our council and where there's an opportunity to elevate our concerns as well as opportunities. And I believe that this report reflects it's an all-in-together approach. And we know there'll be more difficult times and a lot more difficult decisions to make in the future. So, without further ado, I'll go through the process and I will ask each councillor to advise whether they are for or against this motion.
Mayor,
Yes, certainly.
sorry to interrupt, but I just could make a
Yes, certainly.
a comment on in the recommendation in section B5. There is a typo. when this report was written, the original loan scheme was for 50 million. It actually got expanded out to 150
Yes,
million.
that is
So
correct.
that should be 150 million, not 50. If that could be just noted before councillors vote.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'm sure everybody heard that quite clearly, that amendment. Thank you. All right. So now I will run through all the councillors' names, and if you can advise whether you're for or against the recommendation, the motion, sorry. Sally Doyle, Councillor Doyle, sorry, my apologies.
I'm for.
Thank you. Councillor Newell.
For.
Councillor Campbell.
For.
Councillor Gibson.
For.
Councillor Wilson.
For.
Councillor O'May.
For, Mayor.
Councillor Bird.
For.
And my vote as mayor is for as well. So that's all councillors and the motion is carried. Thank you.
Before we move on, if I could just make one quick comment.
Certainly.
I'd just like to thank councillors for their support that they've shown myself and council staff through this. And just like the bushfire crisis we had last year, everyone has pulled together and supported each other and worked extra well. And that is all staff helping each other, supporting each other, and just make sure everyone's okay. So thank you everyone for that level of support. It's another big team effort once again. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Emilio. So the next report we move on to is response to the Minister for Local Government implementation of the Ministerial Directions, agenda number 15.002/20. Do we have a councillor to move a motion?
Councillor Bird.
Thank you, Councillor Bird. Do we have a seconder, please?
Councillor Wilson, second.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Are there any opening remarks from Councillor Bird?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll now ask each councillor if they'd like to make a comment or ask a question. Councillor Doyle, do you have any questions or comments?
No, Mayor.
Councillor McNeil?
No, Mayor.
Councillor Campbell?
Mayor.
Councillor Gibson?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Wilson?
No, Mayor.
Councillor O'May?
No, Mayor.
Councillor Bird?
Mayor.
And I just have one comment, and that's just following up with the Director of Governance. There were some self-assessments that were emailed out to you. There's still some outstanding. We'd really appreciate if you could participate in that survey response, and then let Matthew know when you've completed it. If you can't locate that particular survey in your email system, if you could just reach out to the Director of Governance, and Matthew will reissue that survey to you. And if that could be completed by May, that would be wonderful. Thank you very much. So I'll go back now to the mover. Councillor Bird, do you have any closing comments?
No, Mayor.
Thank you very much. I'll put the motion and I will ask each councillor to state whether they are for or against the motion. Councillor Doyle.
For.
Councillor Newell.
For.
Councillor Campbell.
For.
Councillor Gibson.
For.
Councillor Wilson.
For.
Councillor O'May.
For, Mayor.
Councillor Bird.
For.
And my vote is for as well. So that's all councillors and the motion is carried. Thank you very much. We now move on to the Huon Valley Mountain Bike Feasibility Study, agenda number 15.003/20. Do we have a councillor to move a motion?
Yes, I'll
Councillor
move it.
Bird,
I heard Councillor Bird then, and I also heard Councillor Gibson. So I'll take Councillor Bird as moving the motion. Councillor Gibson, will you accept the seconding?
Councillor Gibson, yes.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bird, do you have any opening statements?
yeah, I was really interested to read in there some of the findings into which of our towns it was going to be more feasible coming from. So I just wanted to highlight that pretty much. I was actually very surprised with some of those findings in there. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'll now go through and ask each councillor whether they would like to make a comment or have a question. Councillor Doyle.
No, Mayor.
Councillor Newell.
No, Mayor.
Councillor Campbell.
No, Mayor.
Councillor Gibson.
I guess the only thing I was wondering about was, I mean, this was a mountain bike feasibility study, whether there's some point in broadening that report to include cycle touring, which is something that I think that our value would be much better suited to, and I've been pushing for some time.
Okay, so are you expecting a response, or that was a straight out comment, Councillor Gibson? Just clarifying.
I think a comment at this stage is fine.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wilson?
Yes, agree, Mayor, and a good report, something that will be needed as we move forward.
Thank you. Councillor O'May?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor, oh, well, back to, I don't, I suppose the only comment that I had was that it's quite an exciting project, and it complements many of our other tourism assets and the growing tourism in natural activities. Not to mention that it aligns really well with our economic development strategy and our health and wellbeing strategy as well. But with COVID-19, we'll need to wait to see what funding opportunities arise from the federal and state government in the future, because as we all recognise, it's a very different climate. Councillor Bird, do you have any closing comments?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, I'll put the motion and we'll ask each councillor to state whether they are for or against the motion. Councillor Doyle.
For.
Councillor Newell.
For.
Councillor Campbell.
For.
Councillor Gibson.
For.
Councillor Wilson.
For.
Councillor O'May.
For, Mayor.
Councillor Bird.
For.
And my vote as mayor is also for, so that's all councillors, and the motion is carried. Thank you. We now move on to the financial report, agenda number 16.003/20. Do we have a councillor to move a motion, please?
I'll move that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. A seconder, please.
Councillor Bird.
Thank you, Councillor Bird. Councillor Wilson, do you have any opening remarks?
Not really. Basically, the director again is doing a good job. He's going to have a more difficult job to do into the next few months, I should imagine.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I'll now ask each councillor to make a comment or ask if they have a question to ask. So, Councillor Doyle.
Yes, Mayor. I suppose I'd have a question for the Director of Finance, and it's just basically that we're, you know, all here working and wanting him to do well and not put himself under too much stress with all the things that are going down of late. So, yeah, look after himself, really.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll look after him, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, there you go. The General Manager has confirmed that he will absolutely be looking after the Director.
I'm expecting him to look after me though, as well.
Thank you. Councillor Newell.
No comments.
Councillor Campbell.
Yes, I'd like to make a comment. Thank you, David, for presenting this. Just one question. I presume that this operating result will be slightly different from what's presented to us. Can I clarify that? The overall operating result?
Yes, through you, Mayor. Yeah, so this report now is some time old. This is the February results, so time has moved on since then and a lot has changed. So as was highlighted in the COVID report earlier on the agenda, it's very difficult at this point in time to make predictions about our result for this year, but I think it's highly likely that our result will be heading out of surplus and into deficit, but we just can't sort of quantify that at the moment. There's just too many unknowns.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, David. It's appreciated, and I expect that anyway. So thank you for all the work you do for us.
Thank you.
Councillor Gibson.
No comments, thanks, Mayor.
Councillor Wilson.
No, thank you, Mayor. I think enough. David is doing a good job where he's doing.
Thank you. Councillor O'May.
I'd just like to congratulate Council as a whole in doing a good job and addressing all the issues which are pretty much up in the air at the moment to the best of their ability, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Councillor Bird.
Through you, Mayor, I just wanted to say, yeah, David, you've had your initiation period, and I'm actually really impressed though, just I guess because we're a little bit isolated and can't be face to face, but I feel that our council is presenting confident in how they deal with this and the budget. So I just wanted to say thank you for being that face and helping us be confident in where we're heading and in dealing with this.
Mayor, if I could just respond to that slide, I'd just also like to acknowledge my team who have been working very, very hard as well through all of this, and they support me very well. So I'd just like that to be acknowledged.
Excellent. Lovely. That is acknowledged and recorded. Thank you. And I can't say anything more than what everybody else has had said this evening on this particular matter. So I've got no other comments. So what we'll do is I'll just finally go back to Councillor Wilson if he just has any closing comments.
No, thank you, Mayor. I think we've all said what we should say.
Thank you very much. So I'll put the motion and we'll ask each councillor to state whether they are for or against the motion. Councillor Doyle.
For.
Councillor Newell.
For.
Councillor Campbell.
For.
Councillor Gibson.
For.
Councillor Wilson.
For.
Councillor O'May.
For, Mayor.
Councillor Bird.
For.
And my vote as Mayor is for as well. So that's all councillors and the motion is carried. Thank you. The next item is building and plumbing fees, agenda number 17.005/20. And do we have a councillor to move a motion, please?
Yes, I'll move that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. A seconder, please.
Yes,
Yes,
Mayor.
Mayor.
Councillor Newell.
Councillor Newell, thank you very much. Councillor Wilson, do you have any opening remarks?
Yes, Mayor. Look, I don't like to see any sort of increase coming on with what we're happening at the moment, but I think these are necessary and still well below Kingborough Council with a lot of their fees. So I think it's something that we had planned before and believe that we should be putting them in at this stage.
Thank you very much. I will now ask each councillor to see if they want to make a comment or ask a question. Councillor Doyle.
Yes, through you, Mayor. I'm with Councillor Wilson, and I suppose we will have to be reassessing a lot of different things as the months go on. So no doubt we could be looking at these again. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Newell.
No comment, Mayor.
Councillor Campbell. Councillor Campbell.
Oh, no, thank you. No comment.
Thank you. Councillor Gibson.
I'll only say that's continuing to match the fees with real cost is I think the right way to go.
Thank you. Councillor O'May.
No comment, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Bird.
Through you, Mayor, I just wanted to confirm these permits are ones that have been in the pipeline for a long time. Is that what I'm reading?
Yeah, prior to was it 2014 or 2012? 2012. Prior to 2012.
I just wanted to make sure that I read that right. So
yeah.
That's for fees. So it's not for all.
No.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
That's all right. That's fine. And my only comment is probably in line with what Councillor Doyle said in regards to reviewing things and the hardship policy, etc., and keeping those in mind. It allows, I suppose, for some flexibility in regards to the hardship policy, as long as we are looking at that it covers those items as well.
It would be on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, on a case-by-case basis, as described in the report. So, Councillor Wilson, do you have any closing comments?
No, thank you.
Thank you. So I'll put the motion and we'll ask each councillor to state whether they are for or against the motion. Councillor Doyle?
For.
Councillor Newell?
For.
Councillor Campbell?
For.
Councillor Gibson?
For.
Councillor Wilson?
For.
Councillor O'May?
For, Mayor.
Councillor Bird?
For.
And the Mayor's vote is for as well. So that's all councillors and the motion is carried. Thank you. The next report we have is the Community Engagement Summary Report on Mountain River Hall Playground, Mountain River Road, Mountain River, agenda number 19.004/20. Do we have a councillor to move a motion?
Councillor Bird.
Thank you, Councillor Bird. A seconder, please.
Councillor Doyle.
Thank you very much, Councillor Doyle. Councillor Bird, do you have any opening remarks?
I just wanted to say thank you to the people that took the time to give feedback, and I did read through and see where some of the comments and questions staff had answered to. So thanks for doing that.
Thank you. So I will now ask each councillor to make a comment if they have one or ask a question. Councillor Doyle?
Yes, through you, Mayor, to through Emilio. Can I ask the Director of Community Services, has this playground commenced or not?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. No, Councillor Doyle, no, the work hasn't commenced.
Okay.
We're waiting on tonight's decision to be made first.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yep, lovely, thank you.
Councillor Newell?
Look, my only comment is maybe this is something that should be put on hold until after this troubled times that we're going through, until we come out the other side. I think it's maybe an expense that we could actually defer.
Okay. Councillor Campbell?
Yes, I agree with Councillor Newell. I think at this stage with the social isolating, and we're not sure how long it's going to go on for, whether we can defer it for 6 months until we know more, so that we're not depleting any funds from the budget of 16,000. Thank you.
Sorry, Mayor.
So the general manager would just like to say something.
Mayor, the funds are actually in capital works programs, so it's probably more beneficial to actually progress this to actually help people have some work, like, to help the economy, stimulate the economy. So as far as capital works goes, it doesn't really help us as far as operational savings go, which is where we will have to find some savings to try and reduce our deficit. So when it's capital works, it's probably better to actually keep progressing those works to keep a bit of work going in the local area.
All right, just for
manager with that.
Okay, just for councillors just to consider the general manager's response in relation to those questions.
Sorry, Mayor, just as an added thing, when we actually workshop the next budget session, we can probably provide a little bit more detail on the capital works side of things as well, to clarify any matters that you want to have better explained.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gibson?
Through you, Mayor, I guess, again, on the same subject of the COVID-19 changes to the budget, I guess the question, my question is this where we would spend the money in capital works, given the new information we have and the changes that are upon us, I guess. So I'm still keen to have a bit of a think about it before jumping too quickly.
Okay, all right. Councillor Wilson?
Look, I've got two bob each way on this one to a certain extent. I think that if the funds have been put aside already for this, it could be something that will benefit the community down the track, and also, more importantly, the workers at this stage, if it allows them to get a little bit of work done. We're not talking large dollars here, but I think those funds have already been set aside. If that is the case, I agree with the recommendation.
Councillor O'May?
No comment, Mayor.
Councillor, right, it's my turn. I do have a question. So the amount that was budgeted in the allocation was 32,000 in the 2019-20 financial year, and this report is seeking an additional $16,000 to be funded from the 2021 asset renewal. My question is, can this playground be done in two different stages? Meaning, will the budget of 32,000, could that stand alone? It's an existing budget item. Could that stand alone and the work proceed? And then add-ons relating to the 16,000, could that be done at a later stage?
Through you, Mayor. I think the answer would be potentially at this point, without having a full breakdown of the costings. One of the things, I guess, two parts to that. 32,000 is what's allocated in this year's budget. The 16,000 is sitting when we look at our 10-year asset renewal program. 16,000 playgrounds has an unallocated amount to any playgrounds for next year. There's about 50,000 that's going to Glen Huon Playground, but we do have an unallocated amount sitting there, which is where this drawdown is coming from. The whole project is including the fencing and the playground equipment. So without having the full quote in front of me at the moment, I couldn't confidently say we'd be able to do parts of it. We'd definitely be able to do parts. Which parts of it? Yeah, I can't confirm. It may be that we need to bring it back because we haven't got enough to finish it completely or split it.
Okay, so what I suppose what I've feel that I've heard from most of the councillors is that either defer until we know where we're at after our budget setting period and looking at our situation, or not proceed. And that's where I was picking up most of the comments. So I suppose my question to the General Manager is that if we were to defer this item, put it on ice, you could say, is it a matter of putting a motion forward now to defer it or just getting some advice here?
Through you, Mayor, it would be a procedural motion that the matter be deferred.
Okay, all right, which would need a mover and a seconder. All right, just putting it out to the councillors, is there an appetite to put a procedural motion forward to defer this item?
Yes, I'll put that motion, Mayor.
Yeah.
All right, so that's Councillor Newell who'll put that motion.
Yep.
Is there a
I'll second it.
and Councillor Gibson will second it. I'll now run through the list of councillors' names and ask for and against. Councillor Doyle.
I'm against, Mayor.
Councillor Newell, you put the forward, so sorry, I can't hear you, Councillor Newell.
Yeah, I'm for the motion to defer it until after we've done a bit more work on it. Yep.
Yes, thank you very much. Councillor Campbell?
Yes, likewise, thank you, Mayor. I'm for it to defer. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gibson?
I'm for deferring it to a workshop to discuss where we might, prioritise money.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wilson?
I'm for deferring it as well at this stage, I think, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor O'May?
For, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Bird?
Am I able to ask a question or are we just voting?
Questions have already been concluded.
Yep. No, that's fine. I'm for deferring. Thank you.
Thank you. And the Mayor's vote is for deferring as well. So that is 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 1 against. So the procedural motion is carried. Thank you. Right. The next report is the draft Ranelagh Recreation Ground Master Plan, agenda number 19.005/20. Do we have a councillor to move a motion?
I'll move that, Mayor.
That's Councillor Wilson. Seconder, please.
I'll second it, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Newell. And Councillor Wilson, do you have any opening remarks?
No, thank you, Mayor. It's just I agree with basically the recommendation.
Thank you very much. Right, I'll now ask each councillor to make a comment if they wish or ask a question. Councillor Doyle?
No, Mayor.
Councillor Newell?
No, Mayor, I'm happy with it.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell.
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Gibson.
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor O'May.
No, Mayor.
Councillor Bird.
I'm happy to go with the recommendation.
Lovely, thank you. I just wanted to thank the Huon Agricultural Society for their successful grant application to the state government, and the state government awarding them this funding to conduct stakeholder and community consultation and to develop a concept plan for a new multi-purpose pavilion. The Ag Society has shown strong leadership, which is equal to the pride that they have for this site and the history of the Ag Society. I'd also like to thank the stakeholder group and key council staff, Beck Stevenson and Beck Bell, for their work on this project. Councillor Wilson, do you have any closing comments?
No, thank you.
I'll put the motion and we'll ask each councillor to state whether they are for or against the motion. Councillor Doyle.
For, Mayor.
Councillor Newell.
For, Mayor.
Councillor Campbell.
For, Mayor.
Councillor Gibson.
For.
Councillor Wilson.
For.
Got there a bit early, didn't I? Councillor O'May.
For, Mayor.
Councillor Bird.
For.
And the Mayor's vote is for as well. So that's all councillors and the motion is carried. Thank you. The next item is the Franklin Foreshore Rehabilitation and Development, agenda number 19.006/20. Please note, councillors, that this report contains an alternative motion prepared by the council officer. Do we have a councillor to move a motion?
Yes, Mayor.
Oh,
This is 007 actually. I'm sorry, Mayor, there must be something with the numbering.
oh, sorry, just a pause for one moment, please.
Yeah.
Okay, right, we're fine now to move on. Yeah, confirming it is 00. We were just confirming the agenda number. There seems to be a different reference.
007 online. No,
Okay.
sorry.
All right, 19.006/20. Do we have a councillor to move a motion?
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Doyle. A seconder, please.
I'll second it.
Yes, Mayor.
I think that was Councillor Wilson that seconded. Councillor Doyle, do you have any opening comments?
Through you, Mayor. I noticed that we've been receiving some correspondence about this as well. I mean, is this the amended one we've got here now, the recommendation? Is that going to be enough for the people that live in Franklin? Like, are they going to be happy with this or not, Mayor?
If you look at the alternate motion and the recommendation, you'll see that item D puts community engagement to be undertaken on the proposed plan at the consult level, which means that the engagement will go out to the public. So Franklin as public, but Huon Valley public. So, yeah. So there'll be an opportunity for them to comment.
Yeah, okay, Mayor. I understand that, but yeah, all right, thank you.
All right, so I'll now ask.
Question, Mayor, if I may. Does this recommendation also include the toilets or not?
No. Oh, it does? It does. Yes, sorry, it does. I've had it confirmed. Yes, it does.
Thank you very much.
Right, lovely. I'll actually ask all councillors if they have a question or a comment that they would like to make. That gives everybody an opportunity. So, Councillor Newell?
lost as to what we're voting on. Are we voting on the one that we've got the nice colour picture of in our reports here?
Through you, Mayor, I'll provide some clarity to that. Councillor Newell, yes, it is the same master plan that's in the attachments with the addition of 2 pontoons, which is the alternative recommendation.
Okay, yep. Well, it's a yes from me. That's fine.
Yeah, so the pontoons are roughly where figure 5 is on the plan in the attachments, and roughly where figure 10 at the northern end is. Sorry, there's 3 10s. So the furthest one north is the second pontoon.
Lovely. Thanks, Rebecca. It looks great.
Sorry, Councillor Neal.
Yeah.
Councillor Campbell?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Councillor Gibson?
No, thank you.
Councillor Wilson? Councillor Wilson, did you have any other questions? Oh, no? Okay.
Thank you, I was muted.
Okay. Councillor O'May?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make a comment. With funding available, I agree that this recommendation is good and fair. I would like to put an emphasis on the future in the conclusion of the report here. Creation of a new public jetty following the demolition of the former wharf in front of the evaporator site, and the creation of a marina area providing for commercial vessels and tourist cruisers to dock. I would like to put a strong emphasis that these projects are followed up as soon as money and resources permit. I think the Wooden Boat Trust and the marine facilities of Franklin are a very intricate part of the Franklin foreshore and should be addressed as such. There's a strong community push in the Franklin area for these facilities to be not only kept at status quo, but encouraged to be able to expand, and for the future, I think it's a great opportunity which will highlight the walking track as a part of the from Yilngal to Franklin to be able to complement a trip back to Yilngal by water or some such adventure. So I just want to emphasise the fact that I think that they should be highlighted, those 2 sentences, paragraphs, and we should be very much considering those as a priority for the future.
Thank you, Councillor O'May. Thank you. Councillor Bird?
Through you, Mayor, I just wanted to say to Beck and her team, thank you for incorporating the feedback received from key stakeholders and finding some common ground on this proposal. I know it's not an easy thing when people are putting in all different ideas of what they want, so I really appreciate you incorporating that.
Thank you. My only comment would be to repeat what Councillor O'May said and Councillor Bird, actually, the combination. So I think this is a really good alternative motion that's in front of us, and it certainly is more in line with the objective of the original $3 million plan, which we can, as Councillor O'May said, we can build upon, which is great. All right, so I'll just go back to the mover. Councillor Doyle, do you have any closing comments?
Yeah, Mayor, that I agree with Councillor O'May. I think the jetty and the marina bit, and also the walking track, I agree. And I don't think anyone's going to have any complaints about that. So, no, totally in agreement. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. I'll put the motion and we'll ask each councillor to state whether they are for or against the, sorry, I've got to get the terms right, the alternate motion. So, Councillor Doyle.
For.
Councillor Newell.
For.
Councillor Campbell.
For.
Councillor Gibson.
For.
Councillor Wilson.
For.
Councillor O'May.
For, Mayor.
Councillor Bird.
For.
And the Mayor's vote is for as well. So that's all councillors and the motion is carried. Thank you. Right. At this point, I have a declaration of interest, so I will remove myself from the meeting area, and so will Councillor Gibson and Councillor Doyle. Councillor Gibson and Councillor Campbell. They will lead this meeting, and Councillor Deputy Mayor Doyle will chair the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
How do we do that?
So, yeah, we'll actually disconnect you for the time being, councillors. Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, which names? Councillor Gibson.
Councillor Gibson and Councillor Campbell.
So that's at 7:40.
7:40.
Okay.
So we now have councillors Campbell, councillors Gibson and Mayor Enders have left the meeting. Deputy Mayor Doyle, you're now officially chairing the meeting.
Okay. Well, we'd like to move on to agenda number 19.007-20. It's the engagement of the Signet Caravan Park, Guys Road, Signet. Can I please have a councillor to move a motion to accept this, please?
Affirmative motion. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Wilson, thank you. Have I seconder?
Wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, sorry, you're doing an amendment, Michael.
Correct.
Okay, sorry. Okay, could you read out your amendment, please? I didn't hear that.
Okay, my amended motion is basically A, the same, B, the same. C, taking into account the impacts and unknown timeframe of the coronavirus emergency, for development of expression of interest set out in the program. I'm saying effectively that subject to an agreement with the leasee, the current leasee between Huon Valley Council and R&L Gudden, for lease of the Signet Caravan Park due to expire on the 30th of June, be extended to 30th of June properly, councillors.
Did everybody hear that little bit at the end then?
Sorry,
No,
I wasn't
I
made.
didn't.
Deputy Mayor, if you like, I could read it out just for clarity.
Yes, please.
So, yeah, from Councillor Wilson, A and B stays the same. C, taking into account the impacts and unknown timeframes of the COVID-19 emergency to allow for development of an expression of interest as set out in paragraph B of this resolution and subject to an agreement with the lessee, the current lease between the Huon Valley Council and R&L Gudden for lease of the Signet Caravan Park due to expire 30 June 2020 be extended to 30 June 2021.
Thank you, General Manager. Do I have someone to second that, please?
Councillor Bird.
Yes, I'll second that, Mayor.
Thank you. I think Councillor Bird got in first, Councillor Newell. So,
Fair enough.
okay. So that's the motion's moved, Emilio. Is that correct?
Yes.
So now I will ask councillors to if they have some question or a statement. Is that correct?
To Councillor Wilson as the mover.
Okay,
First.
Councillor Wilson. Yep, Councillor Wilson. Would you like to have an opening statement?
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. To me, this is the worst possible time to be asking for expressions of interest on this particular site. I think we have a lot bigger issues facing us than this type of thing, and the people that we have leasing it at the moment do a reasonable good job. I think basically if we could carry that through to 21 and then ask for expressions of interest, I think it's in the best interest of this valley to do so.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Now I'll move on to Councillor Newell.
Yeah, look, I agree. I agree with the motion. I think that the last thing we need is to have any upheaval down there at the moment. There is long-term residents there enjoying affordable accommodation. They're happy with it. And for the next year or two, I think it's just common sense to just go with the flow. I think it's a good thing.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Newell. Councillor O'May.
I endorse Councillor Newell's sentiments. I believe we should be chasing the sky up the road to get him to sign for the next 2 years under the current climate that we're in. I believe it would be crazy to try and put something up for expression of interest with the tourism sector going to be at a very low return, if there is one in the next couple of years at all. So I believe things should stay status quo for at least a period of 2 years.
Thank you, Councillor O'May. Councillor Bird.
I want to thank Mike for putting this forward. I think in this, the condition we're in at the moment, I think that's sensible to leave things be till next year.
Thank you, Councillor Bird. Yes, I'm in the same place. I totally agree with Councillor Wilson's motion, and yeah, I think it's common sense. Okay, Councillor Wilson, would you like to close?
No, thank you, Mayor. Sorry, Deputy Mayor. I think this is ideal as far as the community is concerned and the council in particular.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so I would like to now go around and have a for or against. Councillor Newell.
I'm for the amended motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Yes, for the motion. Thank you.
Councillor O'May.
For the amended motion. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Councillor Bird.
For.
Thank you. And I'm a for as well. Thank you, Emilio.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. That motion is carried.
Thank you.
Just invite the Mayor back into the room and reconnect to Councillors Gibson and Councillor Campbell.
Thank you.
Time that councillors and Mayor entered the room again is
7:48.
7:48. Thank you.
What?
Just confirm connection. Yep, we have. Thank you.
All right, lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Doyle, for actually chairing that moment for that report. So it's that time again to advise that council is about to go into closed council. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch tonight, this first online meeting of council. And just remember, please stay home at the moment, stay safe and save lives this Easter. Thank you very much.